Hey guys, tonight we're going way, way back. Not to the castles or pyramids, or even the wheel. No, we're going back to when your shoes were just your feet. When your home was a damp cave, your blanket was maybe some animal you personally tackled, and your neighbors. They were your cousins, hunting partners, and possibly romantic shuffleboard participants. You're crouched low by a flickering fire, the smoke tickling your nose. The air smells like old bones, wet fur, and something vaguely nutty, probably those roasted acorns someone keeps insisting are just like bread. They're not. Your furs are damp from last night's rain. Your stomach growls, and tonight you overhear murmurs. Quiet laughs. Exchanges of looks. The old-timers are swapping stories and skins. Literally. You're starting to suspect this cave isn't just for warmth tonight. Because in your world, nothing not love, not jealousy, not even mine, and yours, works quite the way it does today. And, let's be honest, you probably wouldn't survive a week. No GPS, no oat milk, no concept of privacy. Just rocks, raw root vegetables, and your in-laws deciding who sleeps next to whom based on who caught the last boar. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're here, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is. I love seeing how far this sleepy little tribe stretches across the world. Now dim, the lights maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You drag another log toward the center of the fire. Sparks flicker upward, momentarily illuminating the faces around you. Some look bored, others amused. You've all heard these tales before, how the old clans used to settle disputes, not with fists, but with partners. Someone leans in and says, half joking, "It's your turn tonight." This isn't some dramatic soap opera. It's more practical. In these tribes, people share everything: food, tools, stories. The idea of sharing bodies isn't scandalous, it's just part of the warmth. The tribe needs unity, not division. And warmth, honestly, is hard to come by. There's no priest officiating a wedding, no vows under a flower arch, just a knowing glance during the berry harvest, a brush of hands while flint napping. Maybe an elder nods in approval as two sleeping mats slide a little closer one evening. That's all it takes. The social glue here isn't monogamy, it's mutual survival. Pair bonding might happen, sure, people feel affection, protect each other, stay close. But the unit that matters most is the group. If one adult falls ill, others help with the kids. If one hunter is injured, another steps in. The concept of mine is still forming. Ownership. It's mostly about spears. Tonight's fire circle hums with old rhythms. The drums echo through your chest. The woman next to you, strong from weeks of grinding nuts and hauling wood, smiles faintly. Across from her, a man you traded meat with last week nods slowly, eyes half-lidded. You get the sense something unspoken is being decided. Quiet agreements. Swaps not for thrill, but for balance. And it's not like you're being cheated on. There is no word for that yet. No language around betrayal and love, because the kind of love you're used to hasn't been invented yet. What exists here is loyalty to the tribe. The idea that connections should be shared so no one grows too possessive or too isolated. You lie down eventually, the firelight casting shadows on the low ceiling. You hear laughter, the rustle of furs, not yours. Someone's feet cross your line of sight. There's movement in the corner of the cave, and yet no one shames them. No one whispers rumors. Tomorrow, the same people will share breakfast, maybe butcher a deer together, maybe switch again next moon cycle. Historians still argue whether these communal arrangements were formal rituals or just the byproduct of close quarters and harsh living. Some suggest specific nights were set aside for it linked to lunar phases, fertility symbols, or dreams from the shaman. Others argue it was far more fluid, driven by opportunity and mood, not calendar. You don't know. You're just trying to stay warm, sleep a little, and not get assigned dung cleaning duty again. You pull your furs tighter. There's a draft tonight. Someone's laughter fades into the cave wall, and tomorrow, no one will ask questions. You close your eyes to the flickering firelight already drifting in that timeless rhythm of hunter-gatherer life. Days blend into nights and rules. They're made from necessity, not morality. The sun isn't up yet, but you're already awake. You feel the damp chill curling through the stones under your bedroll, and the faint weight of someone's heel still pressed into your shin from the night before. You stretch slowly, carefully. The fire's little more than smoldering charcoal now, and the smoke snakes lazily toward the cracks in the cave ceiling. Around you, people stir under shared hides. Some cough, some mumble. A few are already outside, no doubt checking snares or relieving themselves into the grass. You step outside too. Dew sparkles on the tall grass like a field of tiny stars. The air smells like moss, wild onion, and last night's fire. Someone hands you a half-chewed root with a nod. You take it. Breakfast. And that woman from last night. The one whose laugh faded into the furs with another man. She waves. Casual. Like nothing's changed, which it hasn't. Because here's the truth. There's no such thing as wife or husband. No binding contracts. No monogamous pledges. In your world, relationships are built from comfort, convenience, and contribution. In the Stone Age, there is no legal institution of marriage. There's mating, sure. Pairing up temporarily, or for longer stretches, but not because the gods told you to, or the law, or the tax benefits. You bond with someone because you like their rhythm, how they forage, how they carry their weight, how they share their food. And sometimes, when that rhythm falters, you drift apart. No tears. No division of assets. Just a different mat tonight. Children aren't property. They belong to everyone. Your kid might follow a woman who isn't his mother to the river. Another might nap on a man's lap who didn't father him. It's not just tolerated, it's expected. It's safer that way. If something happens to one adult, the child doesn't lose everything. Anthropologists looking at certain modern hunter-gatherer societies like the Mosuo of China or the Agta of the Philippines note similar fluidity. No centralized fatherhood. No jealously guarded nuclear families. In fact, some cultures see attempts to monopolize affection as a threat to group harmony. And when it comes to sex, it's not hidden behind doors, because doors haven't been invented. Acts happen within sight or earshot of others. Discretion is a concept still forming. What matters more is harmony, balance, and ritual, not exclusivity. So when someone rolls over during the night and reaches across someone else's mat, it's just part of life. You don't ask for explanations in the morning. You just pass the root and get on with your day. A teenage boy stumbles from the brush carrying 3 squirrels tied by the tails. A woman he's not related to claps his back, beaming. You get the feeling he might be invited to share her fire tonight, not because he won her, but because he contributed. That's currency here. And the elders, They watch everything, not with judgment, but with an eye for balance. If one person starts clinging too tightly, gets possessive, tries to hoard affection or food, it's gently corrected. Maybe they're teased. Maybe someone pulls them aside and reminds them this life is about the many, not the one. Historians still argue whether this sort of loose communal bonding was universal across all Stone Age tribes or more specific to certain regions. Archaeological evidence like burial patterns and cave paintings suggests a mix. In some places, you see signs of pair-bonded individuals buried side by side. In others, adults and children are scattered across group plots without clear family units. The jury's still out. You lean back on a flat rock, the sun now warming your face. Someone starts singing a low, pulsing chant that blends with the birdsong. Two kids race past, shrieking with joy. One of them has your nose. Or maybe not. Genetics, like relationships here, are best left to mystery. Later, while foraging, you notice a familiar smile from across the clearing. Someone you used to share mats with a few moons ago. They offer you a fig. Just like that, no awkwardness. No. What are we now? Chat. Because here, you're exactly what you need to be present, useful, alive. And if tonight your mat ends up near theirs again, that's just how things turn. Not a scandal, not a secret. Just a rhythm older than fire, older than tools, older than jealousy. You head back toward the cave hands full of tubers. Someone's laughing inside already. It's going to be another warm, smoky scent of acorns kind of night. You're halfway through skinning a rabbit when a sharp laugh cuts through the cave. You glance up to see two women sitting near the fire, passing a wooden bowl of crushed berries between them. One of them makes an exaggerated face mocking someone, probably the young man who tried impressing them with his fish catch earlier. You smirk. Not everyone wins every night. The idea of loyalty as you know it is slippery here. In your world, people pledge their hearts and bodies to just one person, forever. Here, forever, is until the next dry season, or until someone proves better at flint napping. The core of your tribe's survival isn't romantic pairing, it's social weaving. Every gesture, gift, and glance serves the group. The stronger the net of shared connection, the safer the people within it. So when it comes to who shares warmth with whom at night, the only rule is keep the balance. You look over at the elder seated at the edge of the cave, her face as creased as river stone. She's humming softly, fingers moving over a strip of hide. She's seen countless arrangements shift and swirl like the smoke above the hearth. She doesn't comment anymore. She just watches. The tribe has its own current, its own quiet way of keeping order without laws. There is no cheating, because no one belongs to anyone. If you spend 5 nights with the same partner, no one raises an eyebrow. If you share your mat with someone new tomorrow, no one gasps. There's no language for betrayal in love, no need for it. Anthropologists call this non-exclusive mating behavior, and it's common in many egalitarian foraging cultures. The Kung San of the Kalahari, for example, often share domestic responsibilities and caretaking fluidly, and their ideas of pair bonding are often short-term. Love exists, but not as a contract. And yes, people do form preferences. You certainly feel more relaxed when that tall hunter with the crooked smile is nearby. You like how he roasts roots just the way you like them. But you also know he'll likely share his fire with someone else next moon. And that's fine. You'll share yours too. There's no shame in this, no arguments, no romantic feuds. because the emotion you're used to calling jealousy hasn't taken root yet. Not in the form we know it. Maybe sometimes you feel a flicker of something, but it's quickly softened by the realization that no one is ever fully alone in this world. There is always someone to help, gather to share meat, to tend the wounds. You remember a time when one woman twisted her ankle crossing the river. 3 others, none of them her mates, carried her back, dressed her wound, fed her for days. One night, one of the men who helped her also shared her mat. No scandal, just care. This is the tribe's rhythm, temporary attachments evolving like seasons, always turning. And sometimes the exchanges are deliberate. You've seen moments during the berry harvest, or the winter fire gatherings when the mood shifts, when furs are traded not just for warmth. When laughter grows bolder, glances longer. Sometimes the elders speak of past festivals, where swapping partners was part of healing ceremonies meant to clear tension or realign group bonds, a form of tribal maintenance like sharpening spears or cleaning tools. Historians still argue whether this type of relational fluidity stemmed more from necessity or belief. Was it born from practical survival, the sheer fragility of life, or shaped by cosmologies where sharing energy bodies and care kept the tribe spiritually in tune? You pull the rabbit's skin free with a practiced tug. The meat will be roasted tonight. Someone will share it with someone else. Stories will flow like smoke. Laughter will echo through stone. And as you toss the skin to the side, you glance around. People are already pairing off for chores. Some go in twos to gather roots. Others walk silently toward the river. Your former sleeping partner is heading that way too, hand in hand with someone new. You feel a twinge, but not pain. Just a reminder. Nothing is static. Later, as dusk falls, the cave begins to buzz with movement. Mats are shifted furs laid out. The tall hunter sits beside you again. No words, just a nudge of his shoulder, a quiet invitation. You don't answer with speech, you just lean closer. Tonight, the balance remains. The drumbeat is faint at first, just a soft rhythm carried on the wind from the far side of the glade. You glance up from your basket of gathered mushrooms. Others do too. The rhythm grows louder, steadier, deep and slow like a heartbeat made of stone. You know what this means. Tonight isn't just any night. It's a gathering night, the kind where fires are lit high and wide and the cave opens itself to song movement and realignment. The shaman begins the ritual at sunset. She wears a crown of woven reeds, owl feathers, tucked behind her ears. Her arms are painted with streaks of ochre symbols, curling over her shoulders like ancient river maps. She speaks little, but everyone listens when she gestures. You sit with the others in a circle, warm furs under your thighs, the fire casting golden shapes on bare rock. The scent of burnt sage and crushed pine needles fills the air. Someone hands you a carved gourd filled with fermented berry drink, sour and strong. You sip slowly, and the drums continue. This isn't some spontaneous social hangout. This is a spirit-swapping night. You close your eyes. The drumming settles into your bones. Beside you, others sway gently. A low chant begins, not words exactly, just sounds. Vowels stretching voices, humming. A collective vibration that fills the cave like fog. And then the movement starts. Dancers emerge, young, old, strong, limping. Some alone, some in pairs. Their faces are painted, some grinning, some solemn. They move in spirals, in mirrored steps, in deliberate weaves between bodies. The rhythm grows until your heart forgets its own beat and follows the drums instead. This is the time when people let the spirits guide their bodies and their choices. You're invited to dance, and you do. Because that's part of it. You don't choose with logic tonight. You let the rhythm guide your steps. Let your gaze settle where it settles. You laugh without knowing why. Someone touches your arm, and it feels right. The Stone Age didn't come with user manuals or dating apps, but rituals like this served as social glue. Anthropologists suggest these ceremonies found echoes of them in many indigenous traditions, allowed for periodic redistribution of relationships. A chance to relieve tension, realign pairings, and reinforce community trust. You spot a couple across the fire, two people who've shared a mat for months, but tonight they dance with others, not out of spite or boredom, but because the group needs it. Connections are refreshed here like sharpening a blade or mending a net. Historians still argue whether these rituals were universally practiced or varied wildly by region and tribe. Some evidence comes from cave art spirals, figures in intimate poses, overlapping forms painted in rhythmic patterns. Other clues are oral traditions, stories of dreams, animal spirits, and seasonal dances linked to love, fertility, and fate. You spin under the firelight, your breath rising in clouds. The person beside you isn't the one from last night, and that's okay. They meet your eyes, and the space between you narrows until it's gone. The shaman steps into the firelight. She raises her arms. The dance slows. Now comes the choosing. Not with words, not even with gestures, just a shift in the circle, a lean of the body, a shared smile. Like iron filings drawn to magnets, new pairs begin to form. People drift to fresh sleeping spots. No one claps. No one announces anything. It just happens. You find yourself near the riverbank where a second fire has been lit for privacy. The one who danced beside you is there. You share a mat, share silence, share breath and body warmed not by love in the modern sense, but by ancient trust. And in the morning, no one will ask questions. No shame. No secrecy. You'll both return to the cave with baskets of wild leeks, and maybe in a few days, your paths will diverge again. This is how your people keep harmony, not by tightening their grip, but by opening their hands. You fall asleep beneath stars that have no names, yet your hair tangled with moss and ash, your body humming with the last echo of drums. The sun finds your face before your eyes open. Warmth trickles through the leaves overhead, dappling your skin as birds begin their clumsy morning songs. You're still on the mat by the riverbank, tucked under a blanket of fur and dew. The person beside you stirs and shifts without speaking. The silence between you isn't awkward. It's easy like shared water. A nod is all that's exchanged before both of you rise, stretch, and part ways. Back at the cave, the fire's been rekindled, and the smell of roasted roots curls into your nose. Others return in ones and twos, some alone, some paired. Everyone looks different under daylight, more serious, more focused, less feathered. This morning marks the start of trading week. You spot the visitors' first figures in unfamiliar furs approaching from the trail with cautious steps. 2 men, a woman, and a girl carrying a bundle of bird skins. Outsiders, but not strangers. You've seen them before, maybe 2 or 3 moon cycles ago. They've returned with things your group doesn't have: obsidian shards, blue-green beads dried fish. And with them, they bring something else opportunity. Among Stone Age tribes, trade isn't just about tools or food, it's also about connection. Visitors are greeted not just with goods, but with stories, songs, and sometimes shared sleeping mats. Hospitality runs deep, and in a world without coins, generosity builds alliances. That woman with the bird skins, she laughs easily, her teeth bright against sun-dark skin. You notice two of your clan members eyeing her with quiet interest. She doesn't seem surprised. She's been here before. You've heard of places, distant groups, where hosting a traveler meant offering more than a fire and food. It could mean offering the comfort of closeness for a night. Not as payment, not as exploitation, but as trust. As a way to say, you are safe here. Historians still argue how widespread this practice was. In some later accounts from indigenous Arctic cultures, Pacific Islanders, and even early Central Asian pastoral societies, there are stories of visitor-sharing customs, gentle, quiet ways of extending not just shelter, but affection. And of course, some accounts are colored by colonial misunderstanding or projection. It's difficult to say where the line lies between factual tradition and misread ritual. But here today, in your world, there's no confusion. The rules are clear in their own unspoken way. You watch the newcomers share food, pass around knives to admire, compare slingstone shapes. The trade is balanced. Your group offers smoked haunches, river shells, and a thick bear pelt. But there's more in the air than bartering. By nightfall, fires are lit again. The clans mingle. The girl with the bead necklace is teaching some of your people a new dance, one involving heel stomps and finger snaps. It's mesmerizing. Two of the visiting men are helping repair a cracked spear shaft. You can feel the mood shift, lighter, freer. That's when the quiet pairings start. It's never spoken aloud. No shouts, no declarations. Just a tap on the arm, a longer than necessary glance, a shared bowl of roasted locusts, a walk to the edge of the camp supposedly to look at the stars. You think of the elders watching all this with the patience of lichen. They've seen generations of this dance. Bonds formed under trade fires sometimes become more. Children born from two tribes raised in one. Alliances built not from conquest, but connection. Your people understand this. Sharing isn't loss, it's weaving. It's how your web grows stronger, knot by knot, hand by hand. Someone sits beside you, one of the visitors. They offer you a carved fish hook. You trade a bit of honeycomb in return. No one rushes. The stars wheel above you. Somewhere, someone is laughing into someone else's shoulder. You might sleep in a different place tonight, or you might stay by the fire watching the embers pop like distant echoes of drums. Whatever happens, you'll wake tomorrow in a world still spinning forward on the same shared rhythm. The rains come softly during the night at first, just a hush in the leaves, then a steady rhythm tapping the roof of your shelter. By morning, everything smells like damp moss and clay. Water drips from the lip of the cave, puddling in worn hollows of stone. A few children splash through it gleefully while the adults move slower, shaking furs dry and checking whether last night's fire kept its core. Your mind feels hazy, not from sleep, but from the echo of questions that linger. One of the younger ones asked you yesterday, "Who's my father?" You blinked, smiled, and said the usual, "You belong to us all." And that's the truth here. You do. In this world, the idea of exclusive fatherhood doesn't really exist. No one tallies the nights. No one keeps a ledger of who slept beside whom on which moon. The children grow up surrounded by many adults, some who carried them, some who fed them, some who taught them how to tie knots or mimic bird calls. If a child favors someone's nose or ears, it's treated more as a curiosity than a claim. Paternity in the Stone Age is communal guessing at best. You remember a story told by one of the elders, something she heard from her own grandmother. When a baby is born, the whole group gathers. Each adult places a small gift near the infant berry paste, a piece of flint, a smoothed stone. The child belongs to no one, and to everyone. Anthropologists studying some present-day foraging societies have found traces of this idea. Two cultures where children are socially fathered by multiple men, all of whom take responsibility, regardless of biology. The concept of multiple fathers isn't just accepted, it's encouraged. It makes sense. In a world where injury, illness, and accidents are frequent, having more than one adult tethered to a child ensures they're more likely to survive. In your group, it's considered bad form to act like a child is only yours. Possessiveness is seen as selfish, even dangerous. And so in the evenings, when the children curl up among the furs, they may not even sleep beside their birth parents. They gravitate to whoever feels safe, whoever has a good story, whoever has warmer feet. Still, you've noticed subtle things, patterns that hint at emotion. A certain man always brings extra meat to one girl. A woman braids a boy's hair with more care than the others. You've seen these signs. You've felt them in yourself too. But no one names these feelings out loud. Naming might break the spell. Historians still debate how widespread communal parenting truly was among early humans. Some burial sites suggest close family units. Others paint a messier picture. Adults and children of different sexes and ages buried together with no clear genetic link. The lack of written records leaves gaps, but what's found in DNA sampling often surprises researchers. Children buried near men who weren't likely their fathers. Women whose offspring seem scattered. You think about that as you watch one of the older boys help a toddler over a wet patch of stone. No relation yet complete devotion. The boy laughs when the toddler slips, then hoists her up again without complaint. Outside the cave, the rain slackens. You venture out, picking your way toward the stream. Along the path, you pass the girl with the wide-set eyes. She was born last spring. Everyone dotes on her. No one knows officially who her father is, but it doesn't matter. She's thriving. You find a flat rock near the water's edge and sit, letting the chill soak into your skin. You think of your own parents, whoever they were. Maybe they're still here, maybe not. Maybe the old man who taught you to trap hares. Maybe the woman who used to hum while sharpening fish bones. You were raised not by one voice, but by a chorus. And now, in your own quiet way, you do the same, passing on knowledge, holding hands in the dark, laughing at small things. You give yourself to the group not as a sacrifice, but as a thread in the tapestry. You stay by the stream a little longer, watching the reflection of trees ripple and shift. Life here isn't clean or orderly. It's muddy, shared, guessed at. But it works. Somehow, it works. Behind you, someone calls your name. It's time to head back. The rain has stopped. The sky is clearing, and tonight, the fire will be lit again. The fire pops softly as another branch catches flame. You sit cross-legged, pulling fibers from a long, fraying vine. It's not for rope, it's just something to keep your hands busy while the evening settles in. The air smells like smoke, damp hair, and wood ash. Around you, others are finishing their meals. The day's work is done. You glance across the hearth and see your most recent sleeping partner sitting with someone else. Their heads are close. They're laughing, sharing something private and soft. A few nights ago, that might have been you. You feel nothing sharp, no sting, maybe a little ripple of nostalgia, like remembering the warmth of a coat you no longer wear, but not anger, not betrayal. Because here, jealousy isn't the villain. It's barely a guest. It's strange, really. In your world, the idea of someone else often stirs a fury that fuels songs, stories, even wars. But here in the deep Stone Age, that emotion hasn't taken hold, at least not the way modern minds understand it. Oh, there are moments. You've seen it before, a flicker of frown when a companion chooses another sleeping mat. A bit of silence during a morning meal. But it passes. Quickly, like weather. There's no lingering resentment, no festering. Because to dwell on jealousy would be dangerous in a world where unity means survival. It's been said by some anthropologists that jealousy in early human societies wasn't encouraged because it had no benefit to the group. You couldn't afford to alienate others. If someone left your side, someone else was always there to fill the space. And if you hoarded affection or grew possessive, others might pull away quietly, leaving you outside the warmth of the social fire. And yet, as modern researchers look into remaining forager cultures like the Hadza of Tanzania or the Ache of Paraguay, they notice patterns. Affection is shared. Partnerships rotate gently. And while preference exists, possessiveness is discouraged. There's even gentle teasing for those who seem too clingy, nicknames that mean one who watches too much or follower of feet. You recall a night not long ago when two men argued over who would walk with a certain woman on the berry path. The woman laughed and chose neither. She went with her cousin. The next day, the three of them shared the morning meal together. Whatever tension had existed dissolved like dew on bark. Historians still debate whether these low jealousy dynamics were universal in early human tribes or unique to certain climates and social structures. Some suggest that once agriculture began and property became a concern, so too did exclusive relationships, inheritance lines, and all the emotions that come with them. But back here now, before fields and fences, there's nothing to pass down except stories and strength. You lean back, resting on your elbows as the stars blink slowly to life. You hear quiet laughter again, familiar, comforting. A child sings nonsense syllables near the fire, while two elders exchange stories about a time when the river flooded the cave mouth. You remember a small dream you had weeks ago of holding on to one person, keeping them as yours. You mentioned it to someone, and they smiled kindly and said, "We all hold each other. You just don't see it all at once." And that's it, really. This life doesn't erase desire. It just spreads it out, like sunlight over the hills. Nothing is bottled, nothing is owned. Connection is something you taste, share, and release. A dog, scruffy and half-blind, curls beside your leg. You scratch behind its ear absent-mindedly. Its presence is steady, non-demanding. Like most bonds here. Behind you, someone rustles their mat. There's an open space beside it. No words, no invitation, just a possibility. You rise without urgency. Maybe you'll join them, maybe not. You still have time to watch the fire a little longer. because here, nothing is rushed, nothing is taken, and nothing truly leaves you, not when everything is already part of the same quiet circle. You wake to the soft creak of leather thongs tightening. Someone is adjusting a sling nearby, preparing for the morning hunt. The light inside the cave is dim, dappled with the shifting shadows of people rising, stretching, easing stiff joints after another night of shared warmth. You're not beside the same person as last night, but neither are they. That's just how it goes. You roll up your mat and tuck your fur around your shoulders. The air has a bite to it. This morning, autumn is creeping closer, and with it comes the quiet panic of preparation, more hunting, more drying, more mending. But for some, another sort of gathering is taking shape. You glance toward the high rock ledge where the group's leaders sit. Not chiefs. Exactly. This tribe doesn't follow rulers, but those whose voices carry a bit more weight when it comes to decisions. And lately, you've noticed a pattern. The higher someone's status, the fuller their sleeping mat. It isn't just about who has the best spear or the most pelts. It's about influence. You've seen how certain people, those with strong stories, wide knowledge, or unmatched hunting skills, attract more attention. When the evening meals are shared, their bowls are never empty. And when mats are unrolled at night, theirs are never cold. This morning, one of the young hunters you know, eager, fast, and prone to talking too much, tries to sit near one of the respected foragers. She gives him a polite glance and then gently sends him to gather kindling. He obeys, grinning but blushing. Everyone notices. No one mocks. You've learned that power and prestige shape desire here too, not with jealousy but with magnetism. Those who contribute more to the group often receive more affection, in return, not because it's expected, but because it feels earned. And this kind of currency is ancient. It's older than coins, older than property. It's as old as admiration itself. Anthropologists have noted this pattern in numerous forager societies. High-status individuals, those with rare knowledge or physical strength, often enjoy wider romantic access. Not through dominance, but through choice. Their words matter. Their company is sought. And though no one owns anyone else, social gravity pulls certain people into the center of every circle. You've seen it with the fire shaper, the woman who knows how to make smoke, curve without choking the cave. She never lacks for companionship. Or the elder hunter who taught you how to track deer through silence alone. His mat is often shared sometimes by 3 in a row. And here's something else prestige doesn't mean exclusion. The respected figures share freely. They don't hoard affection. If anything, they pass it along. You remember how the forager once took a shy adolescent by the hand, shared a walk, a story, a bowl of soup. Nothing more. But it meant everything to him. Historians still debate how much social status influenced mating in pre-agricultural groups. Some argue that sexual access was more equitable, less bound by hierarchy. Others see patterns suggesting that charisma, physical prowess, or ritual power played roles in who paired with whom. The truth probably varied wildly, shaped by environment, culture, and need. You return from gathering kindling and see the hunter again, the one who blushes easily. He's seated now beside someone new, laughing, offering her the best part of a dried apple. You smile. Everyone finds their rhythm, and as the day warms, you're reminded that influence here isn't about control. It's about offering. Those who give receive. Those who hoard slowly fade to the edges. Later that night, the cave glows with firelight again. Someone tells a story so funny that even the elders shake with silent laughter. You lean against the wall, watching the storyteller. His voice steady, his hands expressive. He's older now, slower, but everyone's eyes are on him. And when the fire dims and mats are unrolled, he doesn't move. People move toward him. You close your eyes, the laughter still buzzing in your ears, and realize in this world, attraction is drawn to warmth. Not just of body, but of spirit. And the tribe never forgets where the warmth comes from. The sky is heavy tonight. Low clouds pressing down like a woolen blanket. The air carries the scent of damp earth and crushed pine. And the fire inside the cave burns low, casting more shadow than light. You're sitting on a flat rock near the back, watching a small group gather near the entrance. They're painting again. Smears of red ochre and black ash are applied to bare skin wrists, cheeks, collarbones. Not war paint. Something older. Something ceremonial. Tonight isn't just for warmth or companionship. Tonight is for the gods. You've seen this before, these fertility rites, these sacred reenactments, where the group becomes something more than human. The dancers will become spirits. The singers will channel ancestors. The matings that follow won't be personal. They'll be cosmic. You're not just changing partners. You're restoring balance between this world and the unseen. You watch as the shaman places a carved figurine into a circle of smoldering moss. Smoke rises around it, spiraling in on itself. She begins to hum, not a song you know, but a sound that seems to emerge from the stones themselves. A vibration older than words. Two young dancers step forward. Their faces are painted with sweeping lines, half animal, half sky. The tribe watches silently as they begin to move. Slow circles, arms lifting and lowering in rhythm with the low drum beat. Each step is deliberate, heavy with intention. You've been part of these rituals before. They aren't meant to entertain. They're meant to invite the world beyond the fire, the spirits, the ancestors, the gods of the hunt and the hearth. And in their honor, partners will be exchanged not for pleasure, but for harmony. The myth goes like this. Long ago, before there were tribes, people didn't know how to love. They kept to themselves, hoarded food, hoarded warmth. The land grew cold. The animals left. One night, a great spirit came down, divided itself into many bodies, and said, "You must share all, even your hearts, or you will perish." And so they did, and life returned. That story is told every year here and in neighboring groups. In different versions, the spirit is a fox, a river, a star. But the message is always the same. Sharing brings life, and that includes the sharing of bodies during sacred times. Tonight, you feel the weight of it, the sense that what happens isn't just about you. You might find yourself beside someone unexpected, someone you've never touched before. Not because of preference, but because the rhythm calls it. Anthropologists still debate how much myth influenced early human mating behavior. Were these fertility rites actual excuses for partner exchanges? Or were they spiritual tools to reinforce social cooperation? Some cave art intertwined figures, ceremonial masks, animal-human hybrids suggests both. Ritual and intimacy weren't separate. They were threads of the same tapestry. You sip a bitter brew from a wooden cup, some herbal mix meant to calm the body and open the mind. Around you, others do the same. A few are already dancing now, joining the first two in wider circles. The drumming grows louder but never frantic. This isn't frenzy, it's invitation. A woman touches your shoulder gently. Her face is painted like a river at night, dark blue lines curving across her brow and chin. She doesn't speak. You nod. That's enough. You join the dance. The circle opens, lets you in. You become one more ripple in the current. Hours pass, though time doesn't mean much here. The fire flares, dims, flares again. Some dancers peel away fingers linked, slipping into corners of the cave. You follow when it feels right. Not because you want, because the rhythm tells you to. And when you lie down on a mat, not your own, beside a body you've never shared warmth with, you don't feel strange. You feel part of something, not a ceremony, not even a belief, just an old pattern being honored again. In the morning, the ochre will wash off, the stories will be told, and life, as always, will go on. Because the gods were pleased. It's spring again, the air buzzing with gnats' pollen, and the scent of damp earth coming back to life. The trees have dressed themselves in soft green, and the river finally runs clear after months of sluggish mud. The whole tribe is humming like the land itself is waking up and stretching. And with that waking comes the festival of rejoining. You've been counting the days without realizing it. The older members have been preparing since the snows melted, repairing drums, restitching ceremonial furs, gathering dye plants to paint faces and bodies. Even the cave's front wall has been swept, decorated with new handprints and spirals. It's not every day the group changes its shape so openly. Tonight is one of those rare nights when everyone draws new names. It's not like a lottery. It's more like a ritualized shuffle, a reset button pressed once a year to ensure nobody holds on too tightly for too long. In the Stone Age, comfort is a trap. Too much sameness. It dulls the edge. This festival keeps the group nimble, awake, balanced. The idea is simple. You write your symbol, your name of sorts, maybe a bird's foot or a fishhook on a flat stone. Everyone does. Then the shaman places all the stones in a leather sack, shakes it slowly, while chanting in that scratchy half voice of hers, and one by one they're drawn. If your stone is matched with someone else's, you share food. And maybe a mat, just for the next cycle, until the summer fire ceremony at least. Children don't participate, and elders may choose to sit out. But for everyone else, this is part of the rhythm of life. You don't get to cling, you get to grow. As night falls, the entire clearing fills with firelight and song. The drums are faster tonight than during spirit rituals, not sacred, but playful. A kind of joyful chaos. You see familiar faces painted in new colors, people wearing each other's ornaments, jokes fly. Someone is dancing with a basket on their head. And then the drawing begins. You sit cross-legged on a log, fingers tracing the smoothed edge of your symbol stone, a curling shape like a fern. You remember when you picked it years ago. It's not about luck or destiny. It's about loosening the soil around your roots. The shaman lifts each stone with care, calling out the symbol. Murmurs ripple through the group as people rise, meet eyes, smile, laugh, nod awkwardly. Not all pairings are familiar. Not all are wanted. But that's the point. When your symbol is drawn, you feel your heart speed up, just a little. The match is someone you haven't shared space with before, quiet, observant, a skilled basket weaver with a soft voice and a sharp eye. They smile at you. You smile back. It's not romance, it's curiosity, and that's enough. Anthropologists have long debated whether festivals like these existed widely among early tribes. We have fragments, cave paintings showing groups dancing in spirals, burial sites with periodically rotated pairings. But whether this kind of deliberate cyclical rematching was ritualized or organic remains a scholarly tug-of-war. Some see it as fantasy. Others point to modern forager analogs with similar customs partner rotation, during harvests, communal dances with implied realignments. You don't worry about the debate. You're too busy wondering what it'll be like to sit beside this new person over breakfast, or how they prefer their roots roasted. Later that night, when the drums fade and the embers glow soft, you lie on a mat beside your new partner. You talk quietly about nothing important, the shape of clouds, the path to the salt lick. Their laughter is quieter than your last companion's, but longer lasting. You drift off thinking not about comparison, but about variation, about how the tribe always feels both new and ancient, rearranging itself without breaking. This is how your people avoid becoming brittle, not by resisting change, but by making it sacred. The moon is just a sliver tonight, like a shallow scratch in the sky. Most of the tribe has settled into sleep soft snores and shifting furs, filling the cave with a kind of lullaby rhythm. You're still awake, though, lying on your side, staring at the flickering glow from a dying ember, listening to whispers. Not urgent whispers, not secrets, just the usual nighttime talk, half-dreamed stories, laughter too quiet for daytime. Someone mentions a moment from last year's spring festival. Someone else gently teases another for snoring, like a cornered boar. The cave is relaxed, loose, but there's always something else at night, something that drifts in like smoke, something called gossip. In the Stone Age, where no one owns land and no one can lock a door, the strongest currency is reputation, not wealth, not titles, just what people say about you after the fire dims. And tonight, the whispers are about last week when a woman who'd been sharing a mat with the same man for 5 moon cycles suddenly slept beside someone else. It wasn't a festival, no ritual involved, just a change. And now, the quiet wondering begins. You hear it not as cruelty, but as curiosity. Nobody sounds angry, just surprised. That's what passes for scandal here. They made spears together, someone says. I thought they'd last till the frost. You smile. You'd thought so too. There's no punishment, of course. No one's banished. No voices are raised. But still, these little shifts get noticed. In a world this interconnected, every emotional ripple hits every shoreline. Everyone sleeps close. There's no hiding change. Gossip in the Stone Age doesn't destroy people. It reshapes them. If someone becomes known for breaking too many quiet understandings, they don't get yelled at. They get ignored, moved to the edge. Their bowls fill more slowly. Their jokes don't land. They're less included in the next berry gathering, the next ritual, the next decision. But when handled well, shifts in connection are accepted, even respected. That woman. She'll probably braid the hair of her former partner's new companion in the coming days. They'll share tea root stew. No icy stares. Just a quiet smoothing over. Because nothing lasts here unless it bends. Anthropologists call this form of relationship navigation reputation regulation. It's common in forager societies where physical punishment is rare and formal rules are few. Instead, people monitor each other socially. Gentle pressure, teasing, avoidance, inclusion or exclusion from communal tasks. Historians still argue whether this early form of gossip was a control mechanism or simply the tribe's emotional immune system. Was it about ethics or just keeping the group in balance? You shift slightly, adjusting your furs. The quiet murmurs continue now about something else. A good hunt, a funny mishap with a bee's nest. The moment has passed, and just like that, the scandal fades. You remember your own moments, times you were the one being whispered about. A mat change, a comment made too loudly near the cooking stones. It stung a little, sure, but it also passed. Always did. The cave grows quieter. You close your eyes. Just before sleep takes you, you feel a hand reach for yours. A simple touch. Present. Undemanding. Because even in a world where no one owns anyone, tenderness still finds its way in. And when the sun rises tomorrow, everything will look the same. But the patterns will have shifted ever so slightly. Like smoke on stone, the sun has barely crested the hills when the call goes out, a soft whoop followed by the deeper rhythm of a hollowed log being struck. Someone has died. It's not a sudden shock. The woman was old, her breath rattling for days. People had taken turns sitting beside her, feeding her warm broth, combing her hair with carved sticks. She didn't speak much toward the end, but when she did, it was with a smile. You think she knew. You rise with the others, shaking sleep from your limbs. Today, you'll build a resting place. Not a grave in the modern sense, but a burial mound, a place of transition where the tribe returns one of its own to the land. As you walk to the clearing, carrying a bundle of woven grass mats, you wonder who will she be buried beside. That question isn't simple. In modern times, people expect partners to be eternal, married in life, buried side by side. But here, things are blurrier. The woman had shared her sleeping mat with at least 5 people during your lifetime, and probably more before you were born. She raised 3 children, only one of whom was likely her biological offspring. Her life was full of bonds, each valid, each fleeting, each whole. Now the question isn't who was the one, but which bond best represents her spirit's journey. Some say she should lie beside the man she lived with last winter. Others suggest the woman she hunted with for years, their laughter, a constant hum around camp. A few propose her eldest child. The elders eventually decide on something in between a small triangular clearing where 2 others already rest, one a former lover, the other a blood sister. You help dig the shallow mound. The earth is soft today, still damp from last week's rains. Others sing as they work, not a dirge, but a soft rising melody that sounds like wind moving through tall grass. When it's time, you line the grave with pine branches, then lay her gently on her side, her favorite fur wrapped tight around her shoulders. Beside her, someone places a carved figurine of a bear. Someone else, a bead necklace she'd once traded for during a summer gathering. And then, they place 2 stones, one on either side of her, not just markers, symbols. One bears the sign of her most recent companion, the other, the spiral mark of the woman she'd raised children with years ago. You feel your throat tighten. It's not grief that moves you, not exactly. It's the strangeness of the pairing 2 different parts of her life pressed into the same earth. 2 loves, neither exclusive, both true. Historians still wrestle with how to interpret these kinds of burials. In many sites like Çatalhöyük or Mesolithic cemeteries in Europe, skeletal remains lie side by side without clear genetic connection. Sometimes women are buried near men, sometimes near other women, sometimes all alone. Was it romantic? Familial, ceremonial? We don't know, but here in your world, the meaning is simple. She's buried with those who mattered most. Not one person, not a soulmate, but a constellation of connection. After the soil is replaced and the mound smoothed, you sit with the others, passing around a bowl of warm nut paste, sharing quiet stories. Someone recalls how she once convinced a trader to give her a fine bone comb, just by smiling and threatening to trade her loudest child in return. Laughter, tears, silence, then song again. You glance at the mound at the stones, and you wonder who would be placed beside you one day, not just who you loved, but who helped shape your rhythm, who taught you to cook moss, who danced with you under the eclipse, who held your hand after a mistake. That's the legacy in this tribe, not a name carved in stone, but a memory scattered across many mats, many hearts. As the sun begins to dip, you walk back toward the cave. Someone reaches for your hand. You let them take it. Because in a world without forever, the only thing that matters is who's with you right now. And that you think is enough. You're ankle deep in a shallow stream, rinsing grit from a bundle of wild onions, when you hear laughter ripple through the clearing. Not just any laughter. This kind bubbles up in layers, spreading from one circle to the next, until the whole camp seems to vibrate with it. You look up. At the edge of the trees, a group of young people are gathered trading stones. Not for food, not for tools. These are brightly painted, rounded river pebbles, each etched with simple personal designs, a spiral, a bird's wing to parallel lines. You recognize this game. It only started a few seasons ago, but it's already become part of the rhythm. It's your people's closest thing to Stone Age courtship. There's no matchmaking here, no chaperones, no formal proposals. Just this game of stones. A quiet ritual that lets people declare interest without binding anyone to anything. You watch as one girl offers her painted stone to a young man with a chipped front tooth. He looks at it, then hands back a pebble with a leaf etched on its surface. They grin at each other, then walk off toward the ridge path. Not a word said, just an understanding. Not all offers are accepted. Sometimes the stones are politely handed back. Sometimes they're dropped into the coal's ritualized rejection that nobody takes personally. That's part of it. Trying, failing, trying again. You remember participating last spring. Your stone was shaped like a crescent moon, and you gave it to a weaver who smelled like wood smoke and mint. You shared a mat for 4 nights, then drifted apart without ceremony. No hard feelings. You still trade roots. You still laugh when you see each other sneeze in unison, which is somehow, more often than coincidence, should allow. The game of stones isn't mandatory. Some avoid it altogether. Some prefer the rhythms of work, the familiarity of longtime partners. But the stones give people a way to say I see you without upsetting the delicate web of the group. Historians and archaeologists have long speculated about symbolic courtship among early humans. Carved objects like bone amulets or decorative beads are sometimes found in pairs or in burial contexts that suggest gifts between individuals. Were these tokens of love, affection status? There's no written record to confirm, only educated guesses. But in your world, the meaning is clear. These small stones carry weight. Not legal, not lifelong, just emotional. And sometimes, that's enough. Later in the day, you see one of the quieter boys holding a stone, with both hands turning it over and over like a puzzle. He finally walks across the clearing and offers it to an older woman with a thick braid down her back. She smiles, takes it, and tucks it into her satchel without a word. They walk away together, not touching yet, but the path is set. That night, the fire burns a little hotter. The mood is light curious. You hear jokes about who gave what stone to whom. Someone teases a hunter for accepting 2 stones and pretending he thought they were both from the same person. He laughs along. That's the rule. If you play, you accept the consequences. You lean against the cave wall, fingering your own pebble, smooth with a scratch that vaguely resembles a flame. You haven't used it yet. Maybe you will tomorrow. Maybe not. Because here, in this old new world, affection isn't claimed. It's offered. Briefly. Freely. And if it's not returned, that's okay. You sleep that night with the pebble tucked into your palm. Not because you're in love, just because you're part of something. A dance with no end. The wind's changed direction. You can feel it in the way the trees shift, the way the birds stay low and quiet. It smells of dry grass, of distant fires, someone else's, maybe a tribe beyond the hills. The season is turning again, and with it, something in the tribe is changing too. Lately, you've noticed fewer mat swaps. People are still laughing, still singing, still gathering food and dancing in circles. But when the furs are unrolled at night, more of them remain paired, longer, more predictably. You're not the only one who sees it. Something has shifted subtly but steadily. You sit beside the cooking pit, watching a pair roast a rabbit together. They pass the stick back and forth without needing to speak, each knowing the other's rhythm. They've shared meals for over a season now, and they sleep in the same place every night by choice, without ritual, without obligation. It's not just them. The shaman once said, "Before the seeds our hearts wandered, after the seeds they settled." You didn't understand what she meant until now. Just beyond the clearing, a group is digging, not for roots or water, but for planting. Yes, farming has begun, not full-scale fields, just small deliberate mounds where tubers and wild grains can be coaxed to grow. It's an experiment, but it changes everything. Suddenly, movement becomes less necessary. So does sharing in the old way. If you're staying put, so are your bonds. Anthropologists mark the Neolithic period as the time when humans began domesticating plants and animals, and many argue domesticating relationships. With stable food sources came a need to define households, to claim children, for inheritance, to define who belonged to whom. Historians still debate whether the rise of monogamy was a result of farming or if the seeds of exclusivity were always there waiting. But from where you sit, it feels clear. Stability creates ownership. Ownership shapes emotion. Now, when people form attachments, they don't always let go. A mother and father begin to speak of our child instead of the child. 2 companions make a separate fire on the edge of the camp. They don't leave the tribe, but they've formed something more private. You feel it too. There's someone you've been sleeping beside more and more. You know their snore, their favorite roots, the shape they curl into before sleep. You haven't offered your stone to anyone else in weeks. And when the festival came, neither of you participated. No one commented. No one teased. But some of the elders exchanged knowing glances, because this too is part of the rhythm. Even as sharing fades, the memory of it lingers. You still gather as a group, still swap stories, still carry one another's burdens. But now some hands only reach for one other. And though a few still drift, still trade stones, still shift mats, there's a quiet sense that those days are becoming rarer, not worse. just different. The cave feels smaller now, not physically, but emotionally, as if people are drawing invisible lines around their spaces, their loves, their futures. You lie awake that night beside your partner. You listen to their breath and wonder, is this what the world is becoming? Pairs instead of circles. You don't fear it. You don't mourn it. But you do remember. You remember the stone games, the sacred dances, the quiet handoffs by firelight. All those ways people once learned to share not just food or warmth, but trust. And you know that even if the tribe forgets the old ways, someday you won't. Not completely. The wind tonight smells like memory, cool and dusty, carrying the faint scent of charred wood and crushed wild mint. You sit alone near the cave's entrance legs, pulled to your chest, watching the stars blink into place. It's quiet, the kind of quiet that follows many years, many winters, many cycles of fire and frost. You've seen things change. Once the mats near the hearth shifted nightly, like the flickering shadows of flames. Now they stay in place. Children call two people mother and father more often than they used to. The dances are still held, but fewer stones are passed around. You're not bitter about it. Not sad either. Just aware. What once was instinctive, the free sharing of bodies and closeness, has become more deliberate, less fluid. The energy is focused, tethered. Fires are built for pairs now. Some even mark their spaces with little piles of stones or tied bundles of reeds. A kind of claim, a symbol of this is ours. You still remember when ours meant everyone. And tonight, you're thinking about all the things the world is forgetting. Not because they were wrong or broken, but because they belonged to a different time. A time of movement, of uncertainty, of cold shared for survival. A time when wife-swapping wasn't a scandal, it was glue. It kept the tribe from splintering. It wove connection through laughter and kindness and simple warmth. Not everyone needed it. Not everyone wanted it. But it was always there, offered freely, received gently. Now people ask for promises, for names carved in bone, for forever. And maybe that's good. Maybe the world is becoming safer, more stable, more yours and mine and less ours. But part of you wonders what happens when someone is left out, when the circle is too tight for a newcomer, when jealousy begins to take root because there's no longer room for soft edges. Historians still debate the truth of it all. Some argue these patterns were never as simple as we imagine that people always felt. Possessiveness always craved exclusivity. Others insist the old ways were real and that we lost something. When we settled down, built fences named children after fathers. You don't know who's right. You only know what you lived. And as you sit there with the stars wheeling slowly above and the fire casting long shadows behind you, you feel a peace settle in your chest. Because even if the world changes, you were part of a time when love was a circle, not a line. And that will stay with you. In your dreams, the drums still beat. The stones still pass from hand to hand. The warmth is shared. The laughter lingers. You lie down alone, but never lonely, and feel the ground cradle you like it always has. The night wraps around your shoulders, and the old rhythms hum just beneath your breath. You are part of the pattern. Still, and now, as your eyes grow heavier and the world begins to slip away behind the quiet hush of your breath, let's soften things even further. You're safe here. The fire has burned low, just glowing coals now. The cave is still. Outside, A breeze stirs the grass, gently rustling like whispers you no longer need to understand. The past is no longer just a place. It's a rhythm, a feeling, a flicker of something both strange and familiar. You've walked among people who gave freely, who lived slowly, who loved without locks or promises. Their world was quieter than ours. Rougher, yes, but rich in ways that still echo through the spaces we forget to look. Let your thoughts scatter like embers on the wind. Let your heartbeat find the rhythm of ancient drums, soft and slow, far in the distance. There's nothing you need to do now. No stories to carry. No mat to roll out. No one to impress. Just rest. You've walked a long path through moss and firelight and memory. Now, you've earned this stillness. So go ahead. Release the breath you've been holding. Melt into the silence. You're home. You're part of the circle. Sleep well.